Hello, everyone. We are starting today with the morphology of plants. Basically, we're going to discuss the different morphological features of a plant. Right. So first of all, let's get this written down. Morphology of plants. Now, first of all, talking from the, you can say, from the evolutionary point of view, the plants were first one to walk on the planet Earth, not actually walk, to stay on the planet Earth, because from the evolution point of view, the plants were comparatively they developed much earlier than the animals. I'm talking about the kingdom Animalia here. So basically, when we say morphology, morphology is a study of form, structure, and the relative position of different organs, right? Of different parts, you can say. So that is what morphology is. When we say morphology, basically we are talking about the different, uh, you can say, physical characteristics. That's all. That's what morphology is. In morphology, we're going to discuss the forms. Basically, there are a number of different type of forms. Structures, what kind of structures are there? The relative positions of the different organs. Morphology is seen in basically all organism has some kind of morphology. Just like animals, we have like so again we have a morphology. We have a head, two arms, two legs, and some features like that. So when we are talking morphology, we are talking about the physical characteristics, right? So physical characteristics. When we are discussing plant morphology, so plant morphology basically means that we are discussing the external form and structure of plants. Now, morphology of plant, that basically means here that we're going to discuss the physical characteristics of plants, right? Now, if you remember ever seeing a plant, I hope you do remember that usually a plant has some, you can say, features that can be easily spotted, right? Usually, this is a plant. Let's make a plant maybe. Usually, a plant has a stem. It has roots. That is your standard, you can say, plant, right? It has leaves on it. Let's draw some leaves. It has flowers on it. It has branches and all that. So basically, if this is a plant, the plant can be the, we can say, the morphology of plant can be divided into two parts. It has a shoot system and a root system. Actually, let's place this plant slightly, yeah, right here. So basically, a plant has two systems. We have the shoot system, or we can call it the stem system, right? The shoot system and the root system. Okay, so when I say shoot, you need to understand that shoot is the part of the plant which is present above the ground, and the root is the part of the plant which is present below the ground. So everything which is present above the ground is referred as a shoot system, and everything which is present below the plant, or you can say below the earth or soil, that is what we call the root system. Now there are a number of you can say different things present in the shoot system and the root system. I hope you are quite familiar with them. Basically, in the shoot system, we have the flowers. We have the flower might develop into a fruit. We have the stem. We have the branches. We have the leaves. Right. In the case of root system, basically we are going to discuss the different type of roots, like the primary root, secondary root. If there is some kind of, you can say, the tap root or the fibrous root, what kind of a root system it has, right? So basically, the morphology of plant, we discuss almost everything. There is a special section for flower where we're going to study the arrangement of sepals, petals, and all that. The flower formula, the fruits, how the fruits develop, the different type of fruits, their morphology. Then the stem, basically, you can say stem also has morphological features, how the branches are there, the positioning of the branches, the pattern of the branches, all that. We will also discuss that in the shoot system, right? So that covers stem and branches. Now, leaves. Again, the pattern of the leaves is also a part of that, right? But basically, if I ask you which one is the most important part of a plant, you, I think you would probably say the roots, because again, if you cut the roots, technically the plant is dead, right? Because roots, everybody knows that the roots are the source of, you can say, water and minerals that plant absorbs from the soil, right? Basically, now When we say plants, right, we expect this thing: shoot system, root system, and all that. But actually, the plants are not all plants have this kind of system, right? If we are talking about the kingdom Plantia, not all of them will show this kind of feature. So specifically here, speaking from the evolutionary point of view, we need to understand why the plants developed into such kind of features, right? Because if we compare it to the, you can say the early plants, or you can say the lower plant forms, right? Like Merkentia or something like that, there is no specific structure of organization. But in case of dicot, which is basically what I have drawn here. This is a dicot, and these are, you can say, the most uh, developed or complex plants that are present out there. Just like if you are, I'm talking about animals, like animals, we have animals that we call like the from the Coelenterata, right, which are very simple organisms. They don't have organs, they don't have specific arrangements. But as compared to animals, we are much more complex, right? Similarly, plants have that type of system too. Uh, Plants, again, the lower plants don't have the shoot system, root system, or anything like that. Their morphological, their morphology is not that detailed. But here we have especially focused on the, you can say, the higher plants, especially the dicots, right? So in the majority of the dicotyledons, the first of all, I hope you have heard about the radicle, right? The radicle leads to the formation of the primary root, right? Now, the root, which you can say here, let's talk about the root first. Yeah, so the root, basically, in the majority of the dicotyledons, the elongation of the radicle leads to the development of the root. So the radicle leads to the formation of the primary roots. That is another mechanism for, you can say, this is basically primary. Okay, 1 degree means primary, 2 degree means secondary. Now we know that the roots are responsible for absorption of water and minerals from the soil. It also provides a support to the plant because some plants they can grow quite big. So basically the roots are the, you can say, the anchoring system of the plant, and they are also you can say there to absorb the water and the minerals which are present in the soil. Now, first of all, usually if we are talking about the dicotyledon root, we need to understand a few things, right? There are few reasons, but before going into that, I told you that we have root systems, right? The root systems, they have different kind of root systems. Plants have different type of root systems. Basically talking about, we have the, you can say, the tap root, the fibrous root, and sometimes something which is mistaken, you can say the adventitious root system, right? So the root system we have, let's see what are the different types of the root system here. So in the root system, we have the, you can say, the tap root system, which is, you can say, the most common one. Then we have the fibrous root system as well. We also have, like, you can say, adventitious roots, which are technically not roots. You need to understand that adventitious roots are roots which doesn't originate from the root. They are from some other part. Basically, as I have shown you, that the radicle is the one that will develop with the root. But if some other roots they develop not from the radicle but some from some other type of part, we call it the adventitious roots. Adventitious roots are usually seen in the cases of, you can say, the monocots. They are not a, you can say, they are not commonly found in the case of dicots. They are more of a feature of monocots, like the grasses, the banyan tree, the cereals, the sugar cane. They all have that kind of adventitious root system. So let's write that as well. However, it is not a true root system. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So let's discuss first the taproot system. In order to explain the taproot system, I will need obviously a diagram that I'm going to use here. So give me a moment to get the diagram. So here we are with the taproot system. Let's continue with that first. So I'm going to use this diagram here. That will, just a second. Yeah, here we have the diagram, the taproot system basically. And it actually also shows the fibrous root system in the comparison, right? And again, I would say that the fibrous root system is again uh, more of a feature of monocots. The taproot system is more commonly seen is you can say in the dicot plants, right? So that is a feature of the dicot plants. As you can see right here in the when we are doing the comparative study of the taproot and the fibrous root. If it is not clear, this one is the taproot. Let's write it down, and this one is the fibrous root, right? So basically, the taproot system. First of all, what can you see from the taproot system? The taproot system, there is something that we have the primary root, then we have the secondary root, and then you need to understand what I mean by that. So the primary root is this one. You see this long thing that goes down. This is our primary root. From the primary root, there are branches going into the sides. We call them the secondary roots. These things. Okay. From the secondary roots, we have the sometimes you can say we have the tertiary roots, as you can see right here. And at the end of that, we usually have rootlets, which will have the root hairs on them. The root hairs are the part which are responsible for basically, you can say, absorbing the water and the minerals, right? So the taproot, it is most commonly seen in the dicot plants. For example, the mustard plant that we have, right? However, in some plants, let's first of all write the example. We have the mustard plant. And there is a scheme here. Let's also write that. You might not. First of all, the scheme is something like this, right? You will have a main root, something like this. From that, let's use a different color in order to get this. You will have the secondary roots, which will be going out like this. Okay, they have a somewhat this manner. This. So these are the secondary roots, right? Use the orange color here. And then we have the tertiary roots. Let's use the color green maybe. So these are the tertiary roots that are going to go out from the secondary roots, something like this. I'm not going to draw it for all of them, but basically you get the idea, right? So the color purple is, you can say, it is a primary root. This is the main root. It usually is tapered at the end. And at the end, there is something that we call a root tip, which is present here, right? And this is the, you can say, the meristematic part of the root. This is the reason, or you can say this is the reason of meristematic activity. Right? There's usually a cap which is there for the protective reasons. We call it the root cap, right? And then usually these are the let's just give it a second, and this is what we call the region of maturation, where the cells have stopped dividing and are matured, and they are in differentiation, right? And this is usually known as the elongation phase. This part. This is the region of elongation. Right, so that is basically, you can say, the four different regions of root. However, it might vary. This is usually seen in the taproot system. Okay. Now, first of all, the taproot system, I was talking about that it is mostly a common feature in dicot plants. It is not seen in the monocots. It has a primary root, which will develop basically into the secondary root. The secondary root will develop into the tertiary, which will, at the end of that, there will be rootlets, and there might be present some root hairs. So that is the taproot system. Now the taproot system, it can also get modified. Again, according to the plant's environment, due to the evolutionary process, the plants have modified their roots, right? So I hope you have heard about like the plants can use their uh, roots for storage purposes, right? So modification for storage. For modification of storage, you can take the example of a carrot. I hope everybody has seen that. So if you, let's just write this down. So carrot, which has fleshy roots, basically, let me tell you why the carrots and potatoes are usually have that kind of features. Originally, the plants which usually have a fleshy roots or which stores the food in their plants, they are from usually from the, you can say, their habitat usually have a very you can say a long winter, or you can say harsh winter. So basically the thing is, the during the winter process, if let's take this plant, we know that during the process, during winters, the temperature is going to drop so low that the plant present above the ground is going to get destroyed, right? So the plant needs a mechanism of defense against the winter, right? Similarly, just like animals, they usually migrate, right? The animals, for example, let's talk about the birds, the Russian birds. They usually stay there in the summer, but when it is time for the winter, and let me tell you, the Russian winter, the Siberian winter, they are very harsh, and the animals cannot survive that. So what does animals do? They migrate to India, where it is, according to us, the winters are still like, okay, they are cold, but comparatively speaking, from a comparative, you can say, perspective, we can say that the Russian winter is more harsh than the Indian winter. That those birds, even animals do that, even fishes do that, right? They can survive in a harsh environment. They as sorry, they cannot survive in a harsh environment, so they can move. They have the mobility, right? So that can be done. But in the case of plant, you have to look at the plant. Plant doesn't have the ability to move. It cannot move. As a result of that, a plant needs a mechanism to survive the winter, right? Usually, the animals, what will they do during the winter months? They will come to some place warm, like India, and then they will go back because the summers in India are too hot for them. So they are just basically, you can say, they are on winter vacations, just like go to your grandmother's or grandparents' houses during the summer on the winter vacations, right? Maybe you go to the hill stations during the summer vacation in order to, you can say, save yourself from the summer heat waves. We migrate. That is as simple as that. But plants doesn't have the ability to move. They can't do that. So what should they do? So during the, you can say, the evolutionary point of view here is that, okay, what does plant produces? Plant does photosynthesis, right? Let's understand this one. So plant has the ability to do photosynthesis. Using the photosynthesis, it converts the light energy into the chemical energy. It stores that chemical energy in the form of bonds of glucose, right? That glucose is stored in the form of starch. Now the cycle can be reversed. This is, you can say, photosynthesis, where you get, actually, let's erase photosynthesis, and like basically at the start, we will have the light energy from sun, right? The light energy will be by photosynthesis. The photosynthesis is nothing, it is a reaction that will convert the light energy into the chemical energy. Basically, you take photons and you convert them into electrons. And let's, so light energy, this is basically photons, the packets of light. The photosynthesis has the ability to convert them into electrons, which are nothing but chemical energies. Now, the chemical energy can be stored. How can it be stored? In the form of bonds. Stored in the form of bonds, right? Basically, when bonds break, they release energy. When bonds are formed, they require energy. So basically, like bonds are the banks of energy. So basically, the chemical energy that is formed by the plant using the light energy and the photosynthesis, it is stored in the form of bonds of glucose, right? That glucose is again is stored in the form of starch. Now, the respiration does exactly opposite. It converts the starch back into glucose. If I'm talking about respiration, the starch will be first converted into glucose by the process of digestion. The glucose will then be converted into chemical energy, or you can just say ATP, right? So, and that ATP will be used, right? So, respiration and photosynthesis are technically, you can say, they are opposite of each other. The issue is during the winters, first of all, the environment is going to be too harsh, and sometimes the light energy is also not that much. So plant wants to survive. If you want to survive, you need energy. The energy is usually found in the form of starch in the case of plant. So what plants found, you can say, evolved. They thought that, okay, if this is the ground, let's make a ground. If this is the ground, usually the temperature below the earth doesn't drop that much, right? Because soil is not a better conductor of heat and electricity, right? It is somewhat of an insulator. So basically, the plants knew that, okay, the thing is the shoot system. Actually, let me actually just a second. Let me get a plant. Give me a second. I don't want to draw it. Plant, please. That is not what I want. Just a second, guys. Let me find a plant. Okay, so we have a plant here, right? So the issue is again the plants that grow in those in such habitats. You get that code? Yeah. Okay, so we know that the plants are not going to survive the winters, right? As a result of that, they developed a feature. They knew the plants, from the lot of experience, you can say, they knew that the temperature below the root, below the soil, is not going to drop that much, right? As compared to the temperature above the soil. So they thought, okay, fine. What if we start a banking system of our own? The plant produces a lot of starch. It is not going to use all of that in one go. Okay. So what plants did, you can say, you might have heard about that saving for a rainy day. So plants started doing that. What they did, they made the starch and they start storing it in their roots. As a result of that, if you're going to store a lot of starch in that, the roots going to swell up. That's why we call them the fleshy roots, right? Now the root is gonna grow big, basically big and fleshy, and it contains a lot of starch. So again, that is after when the winter is going to come. Actually, let's draw this up. So actually, the root is going to swell up something like this, right? So this is actually what carrot is. The carrot is just a survival mechanism developed by the plant in order to uh, get past the winters, right? So now we need to understand here that when the winter will come, the shoot will be completely destroyed. The shoot system will be completely annihilated, and but the plant is going to survive because it has a lot of starch stored in the roots, right? It has a basically it has made a bunker for it in order to survive the winters. When the environment is friendly again, basically when the winter is over and the spring season is there, the plant's gonna just burst out again, right? And gonna so that is what the advantageous roots are. Sorry, a modification of the taproot is. So basically, modification for storage that is seen in the case of carrots. Now, there are other modifications as well. For example, the taproot might be modified for the respiration purposes, as in the case of pneumatophores, right? Modification for basically respiration, pneumatophores. Right? And pneumatophores are usually seen, I think the scientific name is the rhizophora, right? There are certain modifications that we are quite familiar with. We call them legumes, right? The legumes plants usually seen like the roots are slightly nodulated. There are nodules present. We call them the legumes, and the plant are called the legume plants. So this is basically nothing. This is a modification for nitrogen fixation. Another modification of the taproot system. Now, let's move to the fibrous root. Yes, okay, fibrous root. First of all, the fibrous root system found in the monocots, the taproot found in the dicots. So fibrous root system, actually I can't see it here, so I'm going to need another diagram. Just a second. So as I told you that a fibrous root system is going to be found in the monocots like grasses and all that, right? It is quite common there. So I need a quick diagram. Okay. I think we can use this one. Actually, this is the one that shows the differences between the taproot system and the fibrous root system. So let's. Okay, so as you can see here, first of all, here we have the, you can say, the taproot system. This is the primary root, the secondary roots, and then we have a tertiary root, which will have rootlets, root hairs on it. And this is a modification here. It is showing that carrot is the plant, a dicot, where the taproot is seen. And it is actually a modification for storing, right? Now, when I'm talking about the fibrous roots, the issue with the fibrous root is that, first of all, uh, actually not an issue. The feature of that is fibrous, right? There are fibers, as you can see, basically guessed by the name. In the fibrous root system, what happens that a primary root, again, there is a primary root, but that is very short line. So it is something like that. Let me just draw it. It is something like that. The tap root, or you can say the primary root, is short-lived and is replaced by a number of roots. So basically, you have a lot of root fibers going straight down. So basically, these are just fibers. There is no like, if you remember the tap root has a very sophisticated mechanism, right? There is the first, if you see this diagram, if you compare these two, this is the tap root and the fibrous root. The tap root is comparatively much more, you can say, complex. There is a primary root, then there is a secondary, then there is tertiary, rootlets, root hairs. Fibrous roots is quite simple. The you can say the primary root is short-lived. As a result of that, from there it basically gives out fibers. As simple as that. So from there we can say that the fibrous root, which is a characteristic feature of the monocots, the taproot, which is a characteristic feature of the dicots are comparatively much more complex as compared to the monocots. That is a living proof, right? So the fibrous roots are usually seen in the case of like grasses, wheat, rice, and corn. Actually, let's write it. Yes, here, as you can see, this is, I think, either this is rice or this is wheat. I'm slightly in doubt, so I'm just going to write wheat, rice, corn. Looks like rice to me. Okay, all of them has this fibrous roots. And another issue with the fibrous root is that it doesn't go that deep. Okay, so it doesn't go that deep as compared to the tap roots. That's why dicots, they can be very large, right? Because they have very sophisticated root systems. Okay, so now that is the different type of root system. Oh, sorry, we forgot to talk about the adventitious roots, right? Let's discuss them. Right, because yes. So the adventitious root system. So adventitious root system are basically, as I told you, that it is there are two parts, radical and the plumule. The radical develops into the primary root, right? But if the root originates from some other part other than radical, that is something that we will call the, you can say, adventitious roots, right? So basically, something pretending to be root, but which is not technically a root, right? Because the root is the part which develops from the radical. The adventitious roots that doesn't develop from the radical. Okay, and adventitious roots are again more commonly found in the case of monocots. Uh, more commonly seen in case of monocots, right? Let's write some examples. Obviously, there are grasses. How can you forget them? The banyan tree, The cereals, the sugarcane. Yes, we can write the sugarcane here. Yes, sugarcane has a split roots, right? So basically, these are, you can say, the different type of root systems. Now, let's move to the regions of root. Actually, we discussed that, but let's discuss them a little more. Maybe we missed something. Uh, Regions of root. Okay, let me use another diagram here. Okay, let's use a simple diagram that will help us in, yeah. So basically, in order to understand the different regions of root, we're going to use this diagram, right? As you can see here, first of all, the root consists of four major zones or regions, basically. First of all, we have at the tip, we have just a second, we have the root cap. As you can see, this portion, it is a root cap, which is present as a, you can say, uh, cap-like structure, basically made up of the very thin walled cells, and it covers the apex. Apex means the tip, right? So this is the root apex, and the root cap is a cap-like structure which covers the tip, right? Made up of dead cells, it protects the young growing cells present in the meristematic zone, right? So just a second. Let us before we have the four zones. All right. Okay, four regions of root, right? So we have, first of all, the root cap. We are rooting for the root cap. So first of all, we need to understand that a root cap is a protective covering present on the root apex. Again, root apex. Apex basically means tip, guys. Okay. So as you can see, this is the root and this is the tip of the root. So the tip of the root is covered by this cap. This cap is known as, so again, let's write a cap-like structure made up of thin walled cells, right? And basically, they are dead cells, and they are protected. They're going to protect the dead cells and have basically protection. They protect the next region that we're going to discuss. The next region is the region of meristematic activity. Now, the meristematic activity. First of all, we need to understand, just like in any have stem cells which have the ability to divide again and again and develop into different kind of other cells, right? Differentiation again. So basically, there are two types of cell in plants, right? We have the meristematic cells and the permanent, basically tissue, basically permanent cells or permanent tissue. So the meristematic cells are the cells which have the ability to divide, which means that they can divide again and again, right? So basically, the meristematic tissue is present right here in this region of the meristematic. Okay, so basically, again, uh, it is present. You can say the root cap is protecting the region of meristematic activity, right? It is made up of, first of all, the cells of the meristematic tissue. If you have studied the meristematic tissue, you would know that the cells of the meristematic tissue are very compactly arranged. So first of all, we have the compactly arranged cell, right? They are comparatively, you can say, as they are compactly arranged, they are usually small, right? And they are thin walled. Let me actually show you a picture of the meristematic tissue. Just a second. That will help you understand about the cells of the meristematic zone. Just a second, guys. I'm trying to find a slide picture that we can use to understand the cells of the meristematic tissue. Let's use a stock picture, maybe. It will help us. Yeah, so we have the pictures now, and let's see the meristematic tissue here. Just a second. Yeah, so as you can see here, this is the, yes, this is actually a microscopic picture of a stained onion root. And these cells, yeah, I'm going to circle those cells actually. These cells are the cells of the meristematic tissue. They have the ability to grow again and again, right? So let's circle them actually. Maybe slightly smaller. Yes. Okay. I have to make a circle slightly right here. Yes, as you can see, these are the cells of the meristematic, you can say the meristematic cells. Let's write that down as well. These are the, the meristematic tissue, or you can say cells, basically. Again, tissue is made up of cells, right? So basically, as you can see from here, the cells are very compactly arranged. They are small. They are very thin-walled, right? And with that, they are, if you just again, let's zoom in the picture, they are isodiametric, basically meaning they are of the same size, they have the same diameter. So again, they are compactly arranged, they are small, they are thin-walled, they are isodiametric. Right? And again, basically that's that. So basically, the meristematic region is the reason where the root region is going to take place, right? So let's write main growing region of the root. Right? So now, first of all, because these cells are in an active state of division, they have the ability to divide again and again. So that's why this is the part that's going to grow the cell. After that, if we take a look at this, we have covered the first root cap, the region of meristematic activity. Then we have the region of elongation, right? We have the region of elongation. So basically, it is the, you can say this is the meristematic zone, right? This is the elongation zone. This one, yes, this one. This is the elongation zone, basically. So the elongation zone is where the length of the root is going to increase. The cells basically possess of this region, right? The external cells, they possess the ability to absorb the water and minerals from the soil, right? That is the reason of elongation. After that, basically we have the maturation zone basically present just above the reason of elongation. And again, the maturation zone is, oh, just a second, what's going on? Yeah, sorry for that. So maturation zone, basically its function, you need to understand one thing here. First of all, the reason of maturation is going to present, there are present unicellular root hairs, right, which are formed from the epidermal cells. As you can see, these guys, these are the root hairs from, these are unicellular root hairs, and they are formed from basically the epidermal cells, and they are going to help in the absorption of water and minerals. Now, this part, the root hairs are going to absorb that, but this part is basically the thing that is going to anchor the plant to the soil. Okay, so these are basically the different type of different regions. So we have what we have covered. Let's take a look at that. So we have covered the different root systems. We have covered the regions. Yes. Now let's see the modifications of root, because again we are doing the morphology. So we have discussed the modifications of roots. So first of all, in the morphology of the plant, now roots basically, they have, you can say the roots in the plant, again, they can change the shape and structure, and they can become slightly modified, right? When I say slightly modified, it basically means that they are going to perform functions other than what is the typical function of a root. What are the typical functions of a root? Basically anchoring the plant and doing the soil absorption of water and minerals, right? So here, what we're going to do, the root plant is going to roots of the plant are going to change their shape, their structure in order to perform a function other than anchoring or absorption of water and minerals, right? So that's what it is. Okay, now first of all, let's see. Actually, the first modification we should see is the roots of the modification of the roots for support, right? Should we go with that? Actually, the modification can be seen in the modification can be there for support. It can be there for food, like I told you, the carrot. It can be there for respiration, the pneumatophores that I told you, right? The rhizophora. So yes, that's that. Actually, we should actually do first. We should first do the stem, because then we can move to the modifications in the same way, right? Uh, so basically, actually, modifications we have. Okay, let's first do the stem. Then we're going to do the modifications later. We're going to do the modifications of stem and root in the same way, right? So the next part, because again, as you, if you guys remember, I told you there is a root system and the shoot system. So we have discussed the root system, but we have not discussed at all the shoot system. So first, we have done this. Let's do this, and then we're going to move to the modifications in the later part, right? So moving to the stem. Okay, guys, stem, basically the part of the you can say plant present above the ground, right? You can say it is the one that contains it is the axis, basically. It is the axis of the plant which contains the branches, the leaves, the flowers, the stems, the other things, right? It develops from the plumule. There are two parts, obviously, of the seed, radicle and the plumule. There are cotyledons as well. But for the, you can say, main thing is the plumule is going to form the stem. Just like the radicle was responsible for forming the roots, the plumule is going to form the stem, right? So if I have to define stem, how would I define that? Okay, basically a stem, uh, it is the axis of the plant. This is a second. It is the axis of the plant that bears, basically contains the branches, first of all, because the stem divides into branches. The branches contain leaves, obviously. They contain flower, and the flowers are obviously going to be converted into fruits. So yeah, I think that is a basic definition of stem. Basically, the axis of the plant that bears branches, leaves, uh, flower, fruits, all that, right? Now, when we are talking about a stem, it usually basically it develops from the plumule of that. It develops from the plumule, right? It might contain nodes and internodes. I hope you have heard of that. Nodes and internodes. First of all, there are two new terms here: nodes and internodes. If you have guys have seen a sugar cane, it is quite easy to understand, right? Basically, you can say a node. If I have to define node in a biological manner, I would define that this is the region of stem node where the leaves are usually born. That is node actually, and either leaves or the branches maybe. So basically, that is the node, and the distance between the two nodes, that is the internode. Okay. So basically, if I have to, if you guys have seen a sugar cane, let me find a picture of a sugar cane. Actually, let's find a. Okay, this one is good enough. Okay, that's a pretty big picture. We know we need not this. We need this picture to be a bit smaller. Yes, something like that. So as you can see, first of all, this is a sugarcane field, and we don't need the whole field. We need one. Let's go zoom in. So as you can see here, first of all, actually we need to enlarge this actually, because I need to show you guys. Okay, actually, just a second. I can use another picture. A closer picture only. Yeah, so this is the sugarcane, right, that I was talking about. Usually this is the node, this part, this part. These are the nodes, okay? And nodes, as you can see, even in this picture, as you can see right here, this is a node, this is a node, and the nodes are the part from where the leaves arises, basically. So the leaves, the region of the stem where leaves are basically born, that is what we call a node, right? As you can see right here, that this is a leaf which is obviously dried up, I know, but that is the part from where you can say node is the part where the leaves arises from, right? This is another node. I know there are no leaves here. Maybe they have cut them down, or maybe they have just shredded them off, right? So basically, this is a node, this is a node, and this is a node. The distance between these, the space between the two nodes, this is what we call an internode, right? So that is the internode, right? And this one is a node. So I hope you now understand that the stem contains the nodes and the internodes. Basically, the node is a part which you can say technical definition is that leaf arises from. Okay. Now, first of all, the stem also bears something that we call a bud, right? Now, what is a bud? First, actually, let's first make this picture smaller. We don't need the picture to be that big. Okay. Yeah. So with that, we now know that the stem has nodes and internodes, right? With that, it also contains buds, right? There are two types of buds. Buds are also present on stem. Right? We have two type of buds. We have a terminal and we have the axillary, sorry. So as the name suggests, I hope you know what terminal means and what axillary means, right? Okay, so first of all, the terminal basically means it is present at the terminal at the end, right? Axillary means it is present on the axis, right? Let me show you a picture that will help you understand uh, the terminal and the axillary positions. I'm going to use a diagrammatic picture and then I'm going to find a picture that explains it. Okay, we can use this. So I have the pictures now. Okay, so what we were discussing, yes, buds. So basically, the stem also contains the buds. Buds are basically you can say these are the points from where the new leaves or maybe new branches are going to originate from, right? Buds can be of different type as well. Uh, the terminal and the axillary based on the position. We are talking about the position part here. So basically, the terminal is present usually at the terminal or at the end of the thing. Usually either at the end of a branch or at the end of the stem. The axillary on the present is first you need to understand that the word axillary comes from the word axis. The terminal basically means at the end, right? End of either the stem or the branch. It's going to be one of them. Axillary basically mean it is present on the axis, right? And if you know axis, you know what is the axis of the plant. It is the stem, right? So let's use a diagrammatic picture that we can use. Understand the position here. Okay, this one and okay, not this one. I have a picture here. Yes, this will explain. Axillary buds are also known as sometimes lateral buds. Okay, as you can see right here, first of all, actually first take a look at this picture. This is a stem, right? And if actually it is not a complete stem, let's make the end of the stem pointy. Slightly pointing maybe. Okay, and there let's make a bud right here as well. So as you can see, there are two buds here. One is present on the end, right? As you can see, this one. This is present at the end of the stem, right? So this is something that we're going to refer as the terminal bud. On the other hand, this is the one which is usually present on the stem, or you can say the axis. It is not present at the end of the stem. It is present on the stem basically. Uh, this is what we call the axillary bud. Buds basically told you that either they are going to give rise to a leaf, or they are going to give rise to a branch, or sometimes there are flowering buds as well, which are going to give rise to a flower. Now, similarly, the axillary bud here, first of all, here it is present between a stem and leaf. It's going to develop into a branch. So, axillary bud develop into a branch, something like this. Now, the plant is going to get more leaves, something like this, right? So, uh, on that branch, you can also have both the terminal and the axillary buds. As I told you, terminal bud is either present on the end of a stem, as it is present right here, or it is present on the end of a branch, as it is present right here. The axillary bud, it is usually present, you can say below the terminal bud, on the axis, on a branch or a stem. Again, both are possible. Usually the axillary buds, they give rise to branches. The terminal bud, they usually give rise to leaves. That is the usual case, but again, that way. And this is the terminal bud, and these are the lateral buds or the axillary buds. Okay, the terminal bud is present at the end of the stem or a branch, something like that. A lateral bud is present on the sides, axis. Now, bud is basically, you can say, a primordial form of a branch or a leaf. It can give rise to both of them, depending on what type it is, right? So the main function, first of all, now let's come back to stem. Yes. So let's coming back to the stem. Now we know that basically, what is the main? You need to understand what is the main function of stem. The main function of the stem, the flower, the plant, if it needs to survive, it needs to do something that we call photosynthesis, right? From otherwise, the plants will not going to survive. Now, during the evolution of the plants, as you can see, if you compare basically a Mertensia to a dicot plant, you will find that the function of the stem is, first of all, obviously to provide the mechanical support. Otherwise, the plants can stand up. Usually, the stem is green when it is young, but as it grows older and older, it's going to become dark brown. It's going to become woody, right? Usually, at the start of the plant, the stem is not woody, but with time, it's going to become woody and it's going to become dark brown. Now, the main function of the stem is basically to spread out the branches. Okay, that is the main function, to spread out as much as possible, right? And why do they spread out? Because they contain the branches, and what does branches contains? The most important, the second most important element, leaves, because leaves are like the part which has the ability to do photosynthesis. Now, the stem, and we know, I hope you guys have heard about that, the stem is a negative geotropic and the root is a positive geotropic, right? As simple as that. The stem, oh, just a second. The stem is usually, the stem is negatively geotropic because it wants to reach a height. Higher the height, higher will be the light absorbed, simply because, imagine that there are three plants, right? And all of them are of the same height. Now, one of them is able to increase its height, something like this, so it will be able to get more light. So that's why the stem wants to reach. It shows the negative geotropism. It wants to reach high. It wants to reach for the sky. And secondly, the stem wants to grow in both directions. It wants to grow tall. It wants to grow wide as well, right? So that higher the surface area, the more leaves that are exposed to the, you can say, that are exposed to. Just a second, guys. Yeah. So more leaves that are exposed to sun, more will be the sunlight absorbed, and technically more will be the photosynthesis. So again, the function of the stem is nothing but to first provide the mechanical support to the plant so that it can stand up. Secondly, to spread out, right? To spread out the branches which bears the leaves, right? Flowers and fruits, and basically Another function of the stem is basically to conduct water from the roots, right? Because the roots are the ones which are going to absorb the water and the minerals, and the leaves are the one that's going to need it. So it is also acting as a conduction. Right. Now, these are the main functions here. I told you the mechanical support, the conduction of water and all that. Yeah. And the last one was spreading out branches and leaves and all that, so that there is uh, photosynthesis. Now, the just like stems, we have just like roots, we have the stems which can be modified as well. Now, do we want that or should we go with the leaves first? Uh, Actually, let's do the leaves first. We're going to do the modifications later on when we are done uh, in the introduction part. Now, moving to the leaves, I would say the the second most important, maybe because I said the roots are the first important. Again, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide, basically, right? So leaves are usually developed from the axillary buds. Usually, it is seen from the axillary buds. However, it can vary. The leaves are basically, if I have to define leaf is basically a flattened structure, right? Which is present on the nodes of the stem, right? So it contains the chlorophyll, obviously, and it's a place where photosynthesis takes place. And basically, the axillary buds are present. It is usually arising from the axil buds, right? And yeah, I think that will be all about that, right? Yes. So let's write it down first of all. So leaf is oh yeah, one more thing. These are lateral structures. If you have seen the tree won't the stem is something like that, but the leaf is always flat, something like that, right? So leaf is a lateral structure. The leaf will never be vertical. If you notice a plant, if you have not noticed this, you will find out that the leaves are always lateral, right? Uh, the lateral flattened, obviously they are flat as well. Structure, right? And they are born on the nodes of the born on nodes of the stem, usually from the axillary bud, variable. Now, first of all, the main function, obviously, we talked about the function of roots. We talked about the function of stem. The function of leaves is actually quite simple. Photosynthesis. Because the leaves contain something that we call chlorophyll. Chlorophyll has the ability to trap light. Something, we say that light cannot be captured. It can be absorbed, or I know that. But chlorophyll basically has the ability to capture light and convert it into chemical energy. So the chlorophyll is usually present uh, in the leaves, and that's why the main function of the leaf is to is to do photosynthesis and produce as much food as it can, right? Now the leaves basically they originate from the apical meristem and are usually arranged in an acropetal order. But before going to that, let's first see the structure of leaf. Okay, actually, we don't need a diagram for this. I can make one. So this is a branch. Okay, and just a second, guys. I need to show you my drawing skills. It would have been much easier if I would have just used a picture. Okay, fine. Uh, yeah, so here basically what we I think that is enough. Yes, usually there is an axillary word right around here, and there is a thorn-like structure on it that we call a stipule, but we're going to do that later on. Okay, so first of all, as you can see, first of all, this is some kind of a branch, right? Actually, let's use a different color and tired of green. Yes, this is a branch. From the branch, there is this thing on which the leaf is present. We call it the petiole. This is the petiole. Okay. Then we have this is the leaf base. If you guys know it, this portion This is known as the leaf base. This is the part from the leaf base is the part which attaches the leaf to the branch or stem or whatever it is attached to. Now, we have the petiole, and let's actually talk about one of them separately. First, let's talk about the leaf base. Okay. Now, the leaf base is basically the part of the leaf which is attached to the stem. Okay. So, part of the leaf attached to the stem. Right. Now, uh, sometimes it might wear a small leaf-like structure that we call a stipule, right? It might present, it might not be present, it is not compulsory. Stipule may be present. Okay, the leaf, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Actually, this one, this thing, the stipule, okay? This might be present, might not be present. And as you can understand, I have from this thing, I have tried to show you that the leaf base is usually swollen. Okay, the in the case of the leguminous plants, it's something that we call the pulvine. Okay, but basically this is the, you can say, the leaf base. It basically, you can say, in monocots, the leaf base expands into the sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. But basically, the leaf base is a part of the leaf attached to the stem. If you want to keep things simple, that would be my definition. Now, the next part is the petiole. It is the part of the leaf which connects the rest of the leaf to, you can say, to the leaf base, which is obviously attached to the branch or the stem. There, the petiole is, first of all, as you can see, it is quite long, right? It is quite long here. And one more thing, it is long and thin, obviously, but with that, the petiole is extremely flexible. Not extremely flexible, it is flexible. I won't say extremely. The reason behind that is that if there is wind, right, if the petiole is stiff, with the, you can say, with a rough wind, it's just going to break the petiole and the leaf is going to fall. Plant doesn't want that, right? So that's why the petiole is very flexible, so that the leaves doesn't, just spread off due to some wind. Now, basically, the petioles allow the leaf blades to be flatter in wind, right? To basically flatter in the wind if there is high winds. And basically, you can say they also, when they flatter, they basically get fresh air as well. So basically, that's what petiole is. Another thing that we call this the lamina. This portion, using yellow color here. This is the lemon, basically the flat part of the leaf. So basically, lamina, talking about the lamina, or also known as, there is another name for that, I forgot, the leaf blade. Right, that is another name, the lamina or the leaf blade. So, guys, first of all, the lamina, it is the broad, broad, flat part of the leaf. Okay, and it also contains some veins and veinlets, something like this. Let me draw the picture. Actually, I can use a diagram. Just a second, guys. I need a picture. Just a second, guys. I'm trying to find a structure of, yes, actually, I need this structure. Just a second, guys. I'm trying to find a good pixel picture so that we can zoom in if you want to, right? Okay, let's, let's do one thing. Let's get rid of, let's get rid of this one and paste the good picture. Okay, we shouldn't have done that. Let's keep it here and let's paste the picture right here. Yeah, so I was talking about the veins, right? If you guys remember. Yes. So basically, this is the lamina, right? The leaf blade. It is not complete, I know that. But again, if you see, this is the petiole. If you guys can see this, just a second, let's zoom in. Yes, somewhat here. So this thing is the main thing that we call the, actually let's increase the width of the pen. This is the petiole, right? As you can see, first of all, petiole, it's a long, thin, flexible structure that attaches the leaf to the leaf base, which is attached to the branch of the stem, basically. Now, if you look closely, basically, from the petiole arises small, you can say, vein-like structures, right? Vein-like structures. Actually we call them veins, and these are the veins that I'm talking about. Let's just a second. This is the petiole. From the petiole, just like from the stem arises branches, the petiole arises into veins. These things, as you guys can see here, right? And the veins then divide into smaller veinlets. Okay, so let's write them down. Let's use this one. This is a vein, and the vein is going to develop into a veinlet, smaller veins basically, right? So now you're going to ask me, sir, what is the purpose of veins and veinlets? Okay, guys, you need to understand that the leaf is a very thin structure. It needs support. So the vein and veinlets, basically, they have, first of all, they will give the support to the leaf, right? Secondly, they help in the transportation of water and all that, basically. Yes. So the vein, basically, you can say they run along the middle lamella, right? This is the middle lamella. Uh, and from there, actually, this is the midrib. I'm calling it the petiole, my bad. Yes, actually, it is the petiole, it is the midrib. There is, no, this can be a little confusing, but just a second. Let's go about, yeah. When it is present outside, it is referred as a petiole. When it enters the cell, it is referred as a midrib. I don't know why they did that. It would have been much simpler to use. So this is the midrib, basically, the vein present in the middle, right? Now, first of all, basically, the midrib divides the surface of the lamina into basically two equal halves, right? Photosynthesis and the transpiration both occur on the lamina, and the lamina contains the vein and veinlet. So, its function is first of all to provide support to the leaf. Secondly, they help in the function of transportation and all that. Now, the pattern of the veins can vary. As you can see here, first of all, here the veins have a reticulate pattern. This is something that we call the reticulate pattern. Okay. So, the pattern of the veins is actually, yeah, we call it the venation, right? Venation is basically, you can say, it is the pattern of arrangement of veins and venules. Okay. Pattern of arrangement of veins and veinlets on the lamina or leaf blade, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Basically, venation is of two types. We have the reticulate and we have the parallel. Now, first of all, as you can see, in the reticulate pattern, they reticulate basically, guys, we need to understand for what is reticulate. Reticulate basically means net-like structure. Okay. Uh, Let me show you a reticulate pattern. Actually, this is a reticulate pattern, but I'm going to show you a picture that will explain the reticulate pattern, and it will only show you the veins and the veinlets, nothing else. Actually, let me find both of them. I need a parallel number. Just a second. Okay, good. And I'm looking for another picture that will show us the parallel venation. Reticulate. Yes, this one seems good. Just a second, guys, it's loading up. Yeah, so when you see this pattern, this is the reticulate pattern, and just a second, I'm trying to find the picture for the parallel venation, where the veins are arranged in a parallel manner, as the name suggests. Yeah, I found it. So actually, we can just actually delete this one and post this. So yeah, as you can see here, these are the two different type of venation. First of all, the reticulate, which means a net-like structure, right? So as you can see in this one, these kind of venation has a net-like structure. On the other hand, the veins and the veinlets, they form a net-like structure. And as you can see in this one, this is actually this is the reticulate uh, venation. On the other hand, sometimes, let me show you a leaf. Some leaves have the veins and the veinlets arranged in a parallel manner. As you can see right here, they are parallel to each other, right? Let me show you a picture of a parallel venation in a real picture, basically. Yeah, this one. Yeah, we're going to use the mango plant leaf to understand the. So as you can see here, this is the leaves of a mango plant. And this is actually as you can see, the veins are present in a parallel manner. That's why we call this type of venation a parallel venation, right? The reticulate is usually found in the, you can say, the reticulate one is, I think, yeah, it is the one that is usually found in the dicots. Okay. Now, the parallel venation it is seen in the monocots. Let's write this down for you guys as well. This is a reticulate, more commonly seen in the dicots. This is one that's one monocots. And if I ask you which one is better, I would say the reticulate one is better. It provides more support comparatively speaking. And the monocots have the parallel venation, right? Now, types of leaf action. Yes. The type of leaves, first of all, basically, the type of leaves, usually there is one that we call a simple leaf, and there is one then that we call the compound leaf, right? So the difference here is that quite simple actually. The simple leaf is just a single one, leaf, which can maybe incised to any depth basically, uh, but not down to the midrib, simply speaking. Like mango, guava, as you can see, these things, these are the simple leaves, the mango, guava, papaya. The compound leaf, on the other hand, is a leaf in which the leaf blade is inside up to the midrib and petiole. So thus, basically, you can say dividing the one leaf into many different leaves. Okay, we call them the leaflets. Actually, let me show you the picture of the simple and the compound leaves. That will make it much easier. The second guy is trying to find a picture here. Yes, I have found one. Let's paste it right here. So as you can see here, we have one. This is a simple leaf, and the other one is the first one. This is the compound leaf, and this is a simple leaf. Right. So as you can see in the simple leaf, the leaf, basically a simple leaf is nothing but a leaf which may be incised to any depth, but not down the midrib or the petiole. Basically, it means that you can make any cuts. Let me show you what it means. It basically means that there can be any cuts like this, right? Imagine that this was not here, this was not there. The leaf was cut in this, actually, yes, have I seen leaves which are something like this? I hope you have. So usually the thing is that a simple leaf it can have incisions and up to any depth doesn't matter, but not down to the midrib. It means that these cuts, they cannot go this deep. If they go this deep, it becomes a compound leaf, as you can see right here. This is what a compound leaf structure looks like. So basically, doesn't it look like that once it was a big leaf, something like this, and somebody just imagine that it was one big leaf, something like this, and somebody deep to the midrib. As a result of that, the leaf was technically divided into smaller leaves. We call these guys the leaflets. The compound leaf is usually a one single leaf. It can have incisions, cuts, but not to the depth of the midrib. Okay, so that's that, and that are the different type of leaves. And we are running out of time, so we won't be able to. But we have discussed the morphology of the plant, basically root, stem, and the leaves. Yeah. Okay. So that I would like to end today's lecture, and thank you.